everybody, and welcome to Metaphysical Insights. This is William Becker. I'm your host, and today I have the wonderful, charming, and very talented and very bright Mr. Rob Gutro. He's an author, an animal medium, a jack of many trades, and he's one of these people who's well based in science. He's somebody you can actually trust and talk to. Um, and if you have any questions or something, please go ahead and send them to us now. I've put up Rob's information on the comments here. It's got, whoops, a little too much. And it's got his website and his social media pages and that sort of thing here. Excuse me, I haven't done a show for a while. I've been out of the country, and so I'm a little clumsy today. Excuse me, everyone. It's part of my charm. That's what I tell everybody. So, welcome, Rob. Thank you for coming back again on the show. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, thanks for having me back. It's good to be here. I appreciate you welcoming me back.
Oh, thank you. Now, you've got part of the timing for this is you've got two books out, if I remember right. You've got one with the animal communications and one with, and I'm sorry, my ADHD is really doing well today, and I forgot the title of the other book already.
Well, Ghosts and Spirits Explained, the
That's it.
Similarities and Differences.
And
Yeah.
I can't wait to get my copy of that. It sounds fascinating. And I like the animal communication books a lot too. Why don't we start with the animal communication one? Because I know that's what a lot of people are really interested in, as far as I've just known a lot of people who have lost their pets lately. Their four-legged friends and family. And so from our talks before and what I've seen, I know you put a lot of stories in these, a lot of studies, a lot of really good information for people. What is this one? How is this one different? What's in this one? What's your goal with this book?
Well, this one's called Pets in the Afterlife 3, and it's subtitled Messages from Spirit Dogs. So it basically just focuses on dogs. Pets in the Afterlife 1 and 2 focus on any domesticated animal, dogs, cats, birds, horses. That includes ferrets and rabbits too. Any domesticated animal, and all of these books are contain ways in which our pets communicate from the other side. Um, about half of the book is full of readings that I did from pets and the confirmations from pet parents, and the other half of the books is full of stories that pet parents themselves had observed signs. Um, the main difference from this one, aside from being just dogs, is that there's also a special chapter on how to cope with grief, and that chapter was written by a good friend of mine, Dr. William Charmack, who is a medical psychologist. So it's not just the signs may not be enough for people; they need to learn how to cope with grief, and that's also part of this.
Fascinating. Are there some of the stories, readings in the book, or some of the information that you can share with us?
Sure. So there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of chapters in this book, and each chapter is very short. It's usually about maybe 1 or 2 pages. There's actually 62 chapters in this book, and so each chapter is 1 or 2 pages. So it's not terribly long, but what's interesting here is that most of the chapters contain different ways that dogs have shared signs.
Okay.
this is also a very personal book. I mean, the other books are very personal too, because the first one was about my dog Buzz that passed away, that awakened my abilities to communicate with animals. The second one included signs from our dog Sprite, who passed away in 2013. And this one, William, was really devastating to me. Um, uh, Part of it was really hard for me to write because in 2020, when I was finishing this book, we lost two of our four dogs during
Mm,
during COVID. They both passed from old age. One of them was 16 and a half. The other one was just about to turn 16. Um, but as you can imagine, losing two out of four of your children in the same 5 months is absolutely devastating.
yes, I'm so sorry. Mm,
Thank you. The interesting part about it, though, is right after each one of them passed, they both sent us a large number of signs that they were still very much with us. So
okay,
those chapters are in the book.
excellent, excellent. Now, I know we don't want to give too much away out of the books, but any little teasers about what some of those signs are for people, or do they just need to buy the book and
No, no, I'd be more than happy to share some signs and some stories. Um, so so pets send signs in a number of different ways, and they can some of the general signs, and then I can go into some of the specific stories that will really make you want to read about how they do this.
uh-huh.
So after a pet passes, the energy that they are combines with memories, personality, and knowledge, and that
Mhm.
becomes a spirit. They cross over and become a spirit.
Okay.
98% of our pets cross over and become a spirit. I found about 2% or less say earthbound, which is a ghost. So don't worry about your pet staying earthbound. Um, they will they will make noises like nails on the floor. You may hear a jingle of a collar. You may hear a bark or meow or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
you may see a shadow, a brief
Mhm.
shadow. They may lead you to another pet that looks like their pet, that looks like your pet, and they do that on purpose. They set that up so that you will see that other pet and be reminded of them. Um,
Okay.
they um, they can they can do things like in the house, like tip a picture of themselves. My dog Buzz
Oh,
did that on the anniversary of his birthday. Only his picture out of all of the pictures that we have on our stairway was tipped, and it's too high up for anybody to reach. Um,
right.
and it was on his birthday. Um,
Excellent.
so subtle things. They can
Mhm.
influence birds and butterflies and other things in nature to behave erratically
Okay.
around times of their birthday or their passing anniversary date, um, causing them to stare at you or act weird. Um, so those are just some brief examples, but there are some specific examples that are much more kind of crazy than that.
Okay. I like it. That's this book sounds really fascinating, and I'm encouraging people to get buy it. Um, Going back, and I know you've talked about this before on my show and others, but can you give us a little bit more of an idea of how you got into this? I mean, with your first dog and um, how this developed, because this has become quite a passion for you and a full-time second job for you in a sense,
Yeah, it really has.
and and you're very good at it. So, and you started this as an adult, not something you were working on younger, from my understanding. And that's a little unusual, I think, too. I'm not sure. But I, let us know how you got there or here.
Oh, okay. Um, so it all began back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and I was a teenager.
I remember that time well. Uh huh. I was teaching school already. Yeah.
It was, yeah, it was a long time ago, but, and so my grandfather appeared to me when I was 13 years old, and he scared the daylights out of me. He appeared
Mhm.
to me 7 months after he died, and, from there, I knew something was weird. My mother confirmed that this kind of gift ran in the family on her side.
Okay.
Um, I never paid attention to it really after that. After that one incident, I just kind of put it aside. I focused on school. I focused on jobs. I focused on college. Um, when One thing we can talk about later is that in book that other book that I wrote, Ghosts and Spirits Explained, is I wound up living in a house that was haunted. That was
Okay.
my second really big experience with the afterlife.
Mhm.
Um, but it wasn't until 2005 when I had a puppy that was gifted to me for my birthday, and he at 7 months old, just 4 months after I had him, he was tragically killed by a car,
Oh.
and he became the doorway for me to communicate with other pets in spirit.
Mhm.
He became the world's best canine communicator from spirit, and so he opened the door for me. He was the one that inspired me to write my first book so that I could teach other people how their pets communicate so they could find peace and comfort in knowing that there is an afterlife and their pets are going to be there for them. So
Okay.
that's it in a nutshell.
Fantastic. I love it. And this has gone on now for several years, and
Yeah, since 2005. So yeah, 16 years.
fantastic. Yeah. What did he, he sounds like an amazing dog. And
Yeah, Buzz. So his name was Buzz. He was a Weimaraner, and when Buzz came to me as a birthday gift, if you will, um, he developed pneumonia, and I wound up taking time off and nursing him back to health. It took weeks. We really bonded. I would set up a tent,
Mhm.
vaporizer, all medicines, all kinds of stuff. Um, w- and once he passed, he really became a spirit guide to me. He became
Okay,
one of my spirit guides. Um, so it's a pretty amazing thing.
it is. Now, one of the things I'm wondering with the pets, with animals, are they a soul that can or has been human sometimes, or could become human? Are they old souls, or are they new souls always? Or I know with two-legged animals, but I don't know with the four-legged kind how that
Yeah,
works.
those are great questions. So, in my experience, and I can only speak from my experience,
Right.
that they were never in the human kingdom. They
Hmm.
usually animals stay in the animal kingdom. Humans stay in the human kingdom,
Hmm.
as far as I know. Um, and there, some of them are old souls. Some of them have been back time and time
Hmm.
again, and others are new.
Okay.
Um, and I can tell whenever I get so people send me a picture. They can go to my website and to figure out how to get readings. And basically with readings, I do them by email, and I ask people to send me a picture, the name of their pet, any questions they may have, and then I
Hmm.
go from there.
Okay.
Um, and by the way, I charge $20 through PayPal for a reading, and they're all done by email, and I don't know anything else. And just by looking at the pet and connecting, I can tell whether or not they're an old soul or not.
Okay. Now, what do the I mean, with the human souls, we're looking at a progression of learning and growth as far as becoming our complete, whole and complete self, in a sense, on a soul level, in my experience and understanding. With the animals, are they on the same kind of journey, or is it a different journey? Why would they have the reincarnations?
So they would reincarnate because they become part of us,
Okay.
and without them, we are less of a being. They are here to teach us in this life and the next lifetime different lessons.
Okay.
And usually, it's about the lesson is basically about unconditional love, because in every lifetime we have to relearn what unconditional love means.
Right. Right. So they're they come back to help the next group of people, next people they're with, and they've learned lessons along the way that they bring with them. Then, or is
Yeah, I think
that part of
yeah, I
it?
think they do. We all learn lessons
Hmm.
through our time alive.
Okay.
They've learned that not everybody is good, humans
Hmm.
or animals.
Hmm.
They learn that there can be abusive situations, there can be wonderful situations. Um, just like people, we're born into different lifetimes and different
Hmm.
challenges, and
Right.
we are supposed to overcome those challenges or try to overcome those challenges.
Hmm. One of the things that I know with us, well, I shouldn't say I know it. My understanding from some of the research and also what I've been told by some on the other side is that we choose the life that we're coming into for the lessons we need to learn. And that
Mhm.
probably includes the manner and timing of our passing and going to the next one. Do the animals also choose theirs?
It's my understanding that they do. They do know what they're getting into.
Okay,
But of course, once we get here, we totally forget everything from
right.
before, and then we
Mhm.
figure it out the hard way.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But they have that control over it. Okay, that's fascinating. I've never been able to talk to somebody who has had this kind of a knowledge and understanding of the animal souls, and I appreciate it very much.
Well, it's really um, I just really communicate with domesticated animals.
Hmm.
So I cannot communicate with wild animals because wild animals do not know our habits, our language,
Hmm.
um, our emotions, and so forth. They don't live with us day to day.
Right,
Granted, people have said to me, "Well, what about zoo animals?" Well, zoo animals have limited contact with humans. You know,
right.
uh, animals that were have some animals have wild animals or were wild animals understand some of our language because they were trained, but for the most part wild animals I cannot communicate with because they can't associate with us.
Okay. Now, do they have the same kind of? Well, you would. I guess you wouldn't know because you can't communicate with them. I'm wondering if they have the same sort of a soul as a dog or a cat would.
Yeah, everybody has the same soul.
Okay.
Every living thing has a soul, and that's a good question. So a soul is the physical energies within us that couple with our memories, our personality, and the knowledge that we have from this life that we lived. And that's what a soul is.
Okay.
For people, for some groups that say that animals have no souls, they have no idea what they're talking about.
Hmm.
No, every living thing has a soul, and every living thing crosses over
Right.
if they want.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I am. I'm not a believer in trapped souls. I haven't run into one yet, and I've talked to, oh geez, far more dead people than I have living. And so,
So I can explain that, by the way, why so many animals cross over versus
okay,
people. There are
okay.
a lot more people that stay behind as ghosts. So animals cross over because they're very sensitive to emotion. They're very
Hmm.
sensitive to feeling and instinct. They have great instincts that people kind of ignore.
Okay.
So therefore, whenever their physical body dies and the light opens for them to cross, they can sense the peace, the love, the kindness uh,
Hmm.
on the other side, and that's where they go because they know it's going to be safe.
Right.
People, on the other hand, are stubborn, as we know.
Uh-huh.
Um, and people also have all of these made up things in their heads that prevents them from seeing anything clearly.
Right.
So they, y- you know, there are some people who are very devout to a particular religion, for instance,
Hmm.
and they think that once they die and they get this quick life review and they see something that they did that was not good, they think they're going to go to hell, so they stay behind as an earthbound ghost. That's the wrong choice because there's
Hmm.
nothing on the other side but forgiveness and peace and love. Um,
That's right.
yeah, and
And I
we can talk about ghosts when we get to the other book.
okay, good, because I've got some of my ideas are not as popular sometimes, based on my own experience. Um, so that would be good. I was wondering about the other book. Now, do you have anything else? I'm not getting any questions from the audience. We do have a few people watching live. Thank you. Um, but do you have anything else with this book, or do you want to get on to the other one?
Sure, there are a number of things I would like to talk about real briefly with Pets in the Afterlife 3 here.
Okay, good.
And um, so some of the things that people write me about is how did their pet pass? Because often that's a question. Um, in one particular chapter, a woman named Ginny wrote me that she had four different Westies, West Highland Terriers, and they
Okay,
all, she didn't know exactly what took the lives of all of them. Um, so when I did a reading for her, she sent me each one with each picture and name. Um, I was able to figure out which one passed from which, whether it was a snake bite or a disease or something else. And she wrote me back eh, and she confirmed every single one made sense.
excellent.
So our pets can tell us how they passed, and you would be surprised how many times I do that.
Hmm.
Um, Also, the other thing too, one of the main points is that our pets always understand when it's their time and we have to make that decision. It's very traumatic for us as pet parents to do that.
Right.
Um, they usually thank us for having the courage to help them pass, and they don't want us to feel guilty. Um, that is a really big message. Other things um, i- is that another dog came through to me and conveyed that he was eating plants and they turned out to be toxic and they took his life, and he came through to me and he came through as a warning to other pet parents to be aware that common house plants can be toxic to your dogs and cats. So please be aware of that. Just look it up on SPCA, the SPCA website.
Okay.
Toxic plants.
And
um,
the dogs and cats don't know better than to stay away from these things. It's not something, and yeah.
no. Um,
Okay.
and coming up on the holidays, holly berries are toxic and
Yeah.
poinsettias are toxic, and so those things are really important to keep away from our pets. Um,
Hmm.
Another important question that I guess get asked a lot is number one, will our pets be on the other side waiting for us? And number two, is anybody waiting for them on the other side? And the answer to both is yes. Um, our pets will be waiting for us on the other side,
Okay.
and there are people waiting for them on the other side. I can share a story with you
Okay.
um, from Pets in the Afterlife 3 when our dog Dolly was about to pass. That helped prove that.
Okay.
So Dolly, like Buzz, Dolly was a Weimaraner. She was what I call one of my heart dogs, which means that she was a very special dog with me. We had a great bond. She
Hmm.
knew what I was thinking. I knew what she was thinking.
Oh,
Um,
great.
yeah, we always anticipated what the other one was going to do. She was the most sweet, loving, gentle soul. She was 74 pounds, and we have dachshunds, by the way, and dachshund mixes, and she was really always taking care of all of them.
Okay.
Um, so in October 2020, Dolly was almost 16 years old, and she had been wearing a diaper for a year. She was in the last year of her life. She walked around the entire block. She was still walking around the entire block. She did agility in our house, going through mazes and all that stuff. 1 week before she passed, the night before she passed, we knew what was happening. A disc in her back was slipping, and
Uh-oh.
it rendered her back legs unusable.
Hmm.
So at 16 years old with a 74-pound dog, you can't put them in surgery. There's just no
No.
way. And she let us know that she was miserable and she was ready to cross.
Hmm.
Um, so we called the vet to come to our house for the next day. And by the way, it was October. It was a beautiful, warm day, sunny. So we helped her cross over in the backyard, surrounded by our other two dogs. Just so that, and that's important, by the way. Your other
Hmm.
pets need to know what's happening to your pet that's passing. And they will also deal with the same kind of depression that we deal with as humans. So they need more
Right.
attention. Um,
Okay.
Getting back to the crossing over thing, the people in the other side,
Hmm.
um, I slept on the floor about a whole year with Dolly at night. Um, we had to put her in the kitchen because she was incontinent and she wore a diaper. Um, so myself and our little dachshund Tyler, who is 10 years old and bonded to Dolly, Tyler and I slept on the floor in the kitchen for a year with Dolly until she fell asleep. Then we would go back into the bedroom. Tyler would go in his bed. I would go in my bed. Um, so that night, that last night, Tyler and I stayed there with her. And Dolly woke up at 3 in the morning, and Dolly kept staring at one of the doors and in the kitchen. And I tried to get her to go back to sleep. She wouldn't. So I finally looked up. William, there at one of the doors was my mom and dad in spirit. Our friend
Oh.
Ed was standing there in spirit, and there was Buzz and Franklin and Sprite, who had all passed. They were all standing there waiting for Dolly, and they wanted to let me know that they would be there. The next day, I heard from my friend Ruth. I let her know that Dolly had passed, and she said, "By the way, Rob, Dolly is showing me that waiting for her was your mom and dad, some other guy that I don't recognize, and Franklin, Buzz, and Sprite, your three dogs." And there was I didn't say anything to her. All I sent her was a
No.
text that said Dolly passed. And she's an amazing medium. Her name is Ruthie Larkin. She's at the Beantown Medium. Um, and the other guy she was talking about was our friend Ed, who died in 1996, that I saw also in the kitchen. So that's right there. It's confirmation that our loved ones in spirit are waiting for our pets on the other side.
That's beautiful. And I think that's going to help an awful lot of people I know. Um, Thank you. I know that's a very emotional thing to relive.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Um, yeah, it never gets any easier to tell that story, but there were many signs that Dolly and Franklin gave to us after they passed, and including a sign to a friend of ours who is another dog rescue person.
Uh-huh.
Um, when people read this, they won't believe it, but she ran into somebody that had a Weimaraner. She was out having breakfast with her friend. She ran into somebody with a Weimaraner and a Dachshund, which are the breeds that we have. Um,
Right.
and the Weimaraner's name was Dolly Parton, and I named Dolly after Dolly Parton. And the guy who was holding the Weimaraner that ran over to our friend at breakfast, um, she found out his name was Rob, and his partner's name was Tom, which is my husband's name. So, what are the chances that a dog with the same name, same breed, comes over to my friend? He, her dad's name is the same as mine. Her other dad's name is the same as my husband's.
That's
So there's more to that story, and it's in the book. But when it comes to spirit, there's no such thing as a coincidence.
That's true. I agree. I believe you. That's amazing. Um, wow. I love it. We've got a question here. Can you see it?
I can.
Yay!
It would be
Magic of
David Cook.
technology. Yes. Somebody we both know.
It's the amazing David Cook.
Yes.
Hello, David. Thank you for your question. Do pets adjust quicker to the spirit world? Um, I I would have to say yes, they do, and that is because pets are much more intuitive than people, and pets can sense energy and emotion much easier, and they don't come with prejudgments, like people do.
Right.
I like to say that people have all the hangups, and pets don't have any of those hangups. So they would definitely adjust better because they they sense nothing but love and peace and comfort there. Great question.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Now, do you have any more stories that you want to share from the Pets 3?
From the Pets 3 book, gosh, there's a whole bunch of stories. So in one particular instance, there was a dog named Little, and um, I got an email from a woman named Wendy about her dog named Little, who passed from cancer. Um, and Wendy said that her boyfriend was pretty skeptical about mediums in general and
Mhm.
pet mediums, and she um, she wanted to know what Little had to say. And I wrote Wendy and I said that Little is showing me a yellow toy. It looks like a ball, but it could be a yellow duck. Did she have a yellow duck? It was something that she was fixated on, something that you had. And she wrote me back and she sent me a picture of her dog's toy basket, and it contained a yellow squeaky duck. And she said, "You just made my boyfriend a believer." I I can't
Excellent.
believe I can't believe that Lily Little rather was able to convey to you exactly what was in her toy basket.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I love it. I love it.
So I've been doing a lot of medium readings, a lot of pet readings in the last couple of months, and
Mhm.
yesterday I connected to a woman's dog who she had in college, and she said, "Does my dog have anything to say?" So I told her a number of things, and one of the things that the dog told me was about a rotted tooth or teeth, and I said, "I've not had this before in a pet reading, but this dog is telling me about rotted teeth, and I'm not sure, what that applies to." So she wrote me back, and her first line was, "My dog died from rotted teeth. The infection within his teeth took his life." And she said, "I can't believe that he would convey that and that you would know that."
Yeah.
And I mean, I read these emails when I get them back from pet parents, and I get teared up. I get choked
Yeah.
up because it's amazing what these pets can tell me. Um,
Yeah.
Another one wrote me that her Great Dane passed, and at a very young age, I think it was 8 months, and wanted to know why. And her Great Dane conveyed a heart problem, a heart defect that he was born with. He made me feel I was sitting at my computer connecting to her Great Dane, and I physically felt pain on the left side of my chest where my heart is.
Right.
And I wrote, that's what he is telling me. It was a heart defect. And she wrote me back and she said, his father had a heart defect and obviously passed it on to the puppy. So it made perfect sense.
Yeah.
So it blows me away when our pets are so incredibly accurate from the other side. There's
Yeah.
no way I could
And
know these things. I don't even know who these people are.
no, and these are things that you wouldn't think about for a pet. I mean, rotted teeth, I wouldn't have thought a heart defect in a young puppy. I mean, it all makes sense. Yeah, all these things happen with people, but you
Sure.
just don't think about, I don't anyway think about those with pets. Even the snake bite, I don't know where this woman lived, but I mean, if she lived in a place I knew was crawling with poisonous snakes, I'd maybe think of it, but otherwise, I certainly wouldn't.
Yeah,
Um,
I actually still don't know where she lives.
yeah.
I,
Um,
I don't know where she lives. All I know is that she said when she was living in that particular property, there was a forested area around the edge of the property. And she
mhm.
always worried about snakes. And I thought, wow, okay.
Wow. No, that's amazing. And again, the animals aren't necessarily protected and don't always know better than to stay away. Um, I wonder, with the breeding and domestication of animals, have we bred away some of the natural preservation instincts they would have had? Because a coyote or a wolf would have known about the snake, I'm thinking. And they also pretty well know which plants not to eat, or which ones they need to eat a little bit of to, get rid of something but not kill them. I mean, it seems to be that way anyway. Um,
Yeah, that could be. I think too, though, in the wild that that those animals grow up in packs, and our domesticated animals are by themselves, so they have
mhm,
no one to teach them
right.
what's not the right plant to eat and so forth. So I think that's part
Okay.
of it too.
Okay.
Especially in the wild, pups are born with their mother, and their mother protects them from doing the wrong thing.
Right. And
But
we
here
have our
we're
pup.
supposed to be their parent, and we're not that
Mhm.
bright.
That's right. And we're not crawling around their level too. Most of them are shorter than we are. Um, a few exceptions maybe, but um,
Right.
yeah, especially me. I'm not that tall. Um,
Me neither.
yeah. Excellent. Good. I'm glad I'm in good company. Do you want to talk about the spirits book? I'm very curious about that too, and the haunted house and the you had mentioned a couple of different key pieces to that book.
Yeah, there were some. So Ghosts and Spirits Explained: Similarities and Differences was actually a total revision of the first book I ever wrote, which was called Ghosts and Spirits. It's no longer available. I found that some of the things were outdated, and I've since since the first book, I have learned an awful lot about the other side. So
Okay.
this has become a comprehensive guide to the difference between a ghost, which is an earthbound entity, and a spirit that has crossed over. Um, in it, there are examples of both, um, and how they communicate, similar to the way that I write the pets books. Um, I also explain other things too about how energy is the key to the afterlife, um, where they appear. I also put in information about protection, crossing ghosts over, cleaning bad energy, um, what an orb is, what ectoplasm is, all about poltergeists, which are not actually ghosts. They're just projections of mental energy that simulate a ghost. Um, the types of communications, um, and the really cool stories that are in here, after you get through the basics, are how my dad helped me prove to my own family that he was at his own wake and his own funeral. Um, my my aunt's quest for forgiveness from a lower level of the afterlife, and here's a hint: it took 25 years to get it. Um, my life in a haunted house, and how I experienced a famous ghost, that of Dr. Mudd, who was who was the gentleman that treated John Wilkes Booth. after he broke his leg after the assassination of President Lincoln.
Right.
So those are some cool stories that are in there.
Oh, fantastic. And do you want to give us any teasers about any of those stories?
Well, whichever
Or
one you would like to talk about.
um, well, the one where your father helps. Actually, they're all fascinating. The one with your father, the one with your aunt, and the haunted house are all three. Um, go with the haunted house.
Okay, well, the haunted
I
house
want to
one.
hear the rest of them. But I'll wait and read them when I get my book. If you don't
Okay.
want to share, I don't want
Well,
you
the
to give
haunted house.
away more of the book than you want to. Is the
e-
key here?
Well, well, true. But even though I could tell you a little bit about each of them,
Okay, that would be cool.
I won't be giving everything away. Um, the haunted house one, I included that one in there because so many people wind up moving into a house that may be old
Hmm.
or older, and they can't explain things that are going on there, and they have to try and figure it out. Whether or not the house is settling or if there may be something paranormal going on in there. Now, it was back in 1997. I went I went back to school to get another degree, my degree in meteorology, and this was in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Have you ever been to Kentucky?
Yes, uh, parts of it
Bowling
are
Green?
beautiful. I don't know. I was in Kentucky in high school, junior high and high school. They were still
Okay.
using coal lamps in those days and tallow candles.
Stop.
Not just
Okay.
in Kentucky, but yeah. So it's been a while.
Okay. Um, well, Bowling Green, Kentucky has a great university there, and that was the only university that I found that had the correct program for meteorology for me. So, long story short, I was way too old to live in a dorm, so I rented a room in a house off campus, and it was owned by um, students. This 23-year-old, 21-year-old student's parents. They bought a house because they wanted him to live off campus, and it had an extra bedroom, so they rented it out.
Right.
Um, so I went there. I met him. He seemed like a nice guy. Decided to rent the other room, and that was good. The thing is that he didn't move in for I think it was probably a month. I moved in a month early before classes started
Okay.
because I was trying to find a job and get situated. Um,
Right.
he didn't tell me anything except that his roommate from the previous year had a dog and moved out. And that was all he said. And I thought, okay, whatever. Maybe graduated. Who knows? None of my
Mhm.
business. Well, the first Tuesday night that I was there by myself, at 2:30 in the morning, there was a pounding on the back door. The back door was in the kitchen. Um, it was a very small house, 2 bedroom, 1 floor, no basement, no second floor, just a kitchen, living room, dining room, and 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and that's it. This house was so old that it had grates on the floor with pans for coal, hot coal. That's how
Oh,
it used to be. So I don't know what year the house was built, but
I
I'm
wonder how
guessing
many
sometime in the 1800s.
I wonder how many people died from carbon monoxide or poisoning with the coal. I mean, no chimneys.
No, no, there was no chimney in there either. No. Mm-mm.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
but so here's the thing. Um, Tuesday nights at 2:30 in the morning, that there would be a pounding on the back door, and it happened every week at 2:30 in the morning on a Tuesday night. When that guy moved in, that young kid, I sat him down and I said, Well, before I sat him down, he moved in on a Tuesday. He, and that night when he was first there, it happened again. We bumped into each other in the hallway, and he was shaking. And he said, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Of course I heard it. I'm standing up in the middle of the hallway, 2:30 in the morning." You know? I said, I don't know if it's a college kid, playing pranks. I don't know, but this has happened for the last 3 weeks. I don't know what's going on. And he said, "Well, the light in the backyard is not on." I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "There's a motion light in the backyard." And he said, "If anybody was at the door, it would have gone on." And that clued me in. Well, the pounding was still happening as we crept to the kitchen, and I turned the light on, and the pounding stopped. And then I looked at him and I said, "Okay, what's going on?" And he said, "Well, my roommate and his dog moved out because of this." So, um, all I will tell you, I'll leave the rest of the story up in the air here because it's in the book. But I thought the ghost was on the outside of the house. Mm-mm.
Uh-oh. It was trying to get out.
I don't know. Um, but you'll find out the rest of the story. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty startling to me.
Okay.
This was before I even, so I granted back when I was a teenager, many years before, I had my experience with my grandfather, but this was
Yeah.
only my second experience with a dead person. And this was not a good experience. This was a scary experience simply because it was
Wow.
startling. Um, so, um, yeah. and, and the next experience I had was with my aunt from the other side,
Mm-hmm.
who was begging for forgiveness. And what's interesting is that the energy, when you're in a house that's haunted, ghosts uh, emit negative emotional energy. They also absorb it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have a ghost in your house, ghosts are going to cause you to feel more agitated, more nervous, more anxious, more depressed, more angry, easy to anger. And in turn, if you are those things, if you are depressed, if you are anxious, if you are feeling quick, anger, you're fueling the ghost. So
Exactly.
it's a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my aunt, when she passed away in, I think it was 1983, something like that, she crossed over, but she was in a very low level of the afterlife. And it took me a while. It took me a long time to figure that out.
Okay.
Um, and the reason she was is because she and my mom had a love-hate relationship when they were alive. She was that older sister that would just do kind of, you know, bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so she came to me when I was living in that house, and I knew it was her. She was a shadow. She was a dark black shadow, and she was standing at the end of my bed. And I knew it was my aunt. And I heard her in my head, and she said, "I need your mother to forgive me so I can move on." And what I what I've come to learn is that it meant move to go from a so there are different levels in the afterlife.
Okay.
There are there are between 3 and 7. It depends on who you talk to, and it depends on
Mm-hmm.
what culture. I think in Japan they have 7 levels, they believe in the afterlife. Um, so she was on the lowest level, which means that she still needed forgiveness. She still needed something to move up and
Okay.
find more peace.
Yeah.
So that's why she came to me. She proceeded to come to me, and I told my mother. My mother was the one that needed to forgive her. I told my mom, and my mother, who has the ability but was always afraid to use it, um, said to me, "I want her to leave you alone." I'm like, "She's not going to leave me alone. She knows she knows I have this ability,
Yeah.
and she needs forgiveness from you."
Yeah.
Well, Um, as you read about in the book, that it took 25 years for me to get my mother to forgive my aunt so she could move on.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my aunt gave me a musical sign that she had finally achieved peace on the other side. Um, so the important lesson here is that if there's someone that did something bad to you on the other side, they need your forgiveness, even for horrible things. And I know a lot of people have experienced horrible things.
Hmm.
Um, you don't have to forget. That's not what I'm saying.
No. And you
Just
don't say it was okay.
no, don't say it
Mm-mm.
was okay. They know it was not okay. Once they get on the other side, they're totally aware that things were
Right.
not right, and they were. And um, but you have to just find some kind of forgiveness in your heart because it also frees you of a burden as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Um, I used to joke with my mother over those 25 years. I said, "Look, mom, I know you are a red-blooded, hot Italian with a temper, but," and I said, "I know that Italians invented the word vendetta, but you need to let it go."
Hmm. What would
Uh,
she do when you'd say that? Would she laugh or get mad at you?
both.
Okay.
She would laugh
Hmm.
and then she would get mad at me and tell me to shut up.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I think I haven't heard a story like that one before. That's interesting.
Everybody has a story, and
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason my aunt came to me instead of my brothers. I have two brothers, by the way, and neither one of them have this ability. Um, uh, the reason my aunt came to me is that out of the three of us boys in the family, I was closest to my aunt.
Okay.
Um, so that right there, she knew that she could trust me to help get the message across, and that's what spirits do. So if you have somebody that passed over and you're interested in hearing from them, sometimes they may go through someone else to let you
Right.
know they're okay. They may come into somebody else's dreams.
Hmm.
Um, Jumping back to the dog thing, the pet thing for a second. Um, there was a woman, and I like this story because it's so true. There was a woman who contacted me, and she said, "I am really angry with my husband because he's dreamed of my dog that had passed away, and that dog was my dog. That dog was bonded to me, but I haven't dreamt of my dog. But my husband has dreamt of our dog several times, and I am so angry with him. I am so mad at him for for dreaming of our dog and not letting me dream of our dog." And I said, Your dog does not want you to be mad at your husband. Your dog is coming through to your husband because he has worked through his grief. You have not. And the only way for your dog to get a message to you that your dog is okay in spirit, is to come to your husband. So the last thing they want is for you to be mad at your husband. He's doing you a
Right.
favor.
Uh-huh.
So I become a
Did she get
spiritual
it? Did she?
marriage counselor.
Yeah. And did she understand? Did she get it?
She did.
Um, good,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad because people don't always get it. They
No.
can get so caught up in this idea that and take it so personally that reason and facts don't always get through. So,
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
excellent.
Well, are we at the end of the show?
We're getting close, but if you
Wow.
wanted to mention a little bit about your father and being at the funeral, um, we have time.
Well, I'll just throw a
We
quick
don't have.
little snippet out there and leave it at that because
Okay.
I think that everybody really I think it would really help people who have lost a loved one, especially
Mhm.
after going through COVID and so forth, to know my dad's story because my dad's story is their story too, their loved one's
Mhm.
story as well. Um, so um, uh, as a medium, it's easier for me, and it's become easier for me to deal with people who passed, um, because they can show themselves to me,
Right.
usually in my mind. Um,
Hmm.
so when my dad passed away, and at the funeral home at the wake, I was able to actually see him standing there as people were coming in and filing past, the casket
Hmm.
and so forth. Um, but um, during the week of his passing, um, my husband and I stayed at my mom's house, and my dad made made things disappear out of the kitchen where we always put them.
Hmm.
He played with the electricity. He
Hmm.
did all kinds of crazy things,
Hmm.
um, and we knew it was my dad because
Sounds
none
like
of
he,
those things happened before he passed away.
right. Sounds like he had a sense of humor.
He did. He had a very quiet, subtle sense of humor.
Hmm.
And in one particular case, we were trying to do like fix some things around my mom's house during that week, and um, I think I can't remember, a tool down, and it was my dad's credit card because we were gonna do something with his credit cards. And when we came back into the kitchen to get them, they were missing, and the only ones in the house were Tom, myself, and my mother, and we were all together when we went in another room.
Hmm.
So I said, "Okay, Dad, what'd you do with them? Please put them back." So we left the kitchen. I think we went out for dinner or whatever. We came back and they were there.
Hmm.
So there's
I
that.
hope you said thank
Um,
you
I
for
did
putting
say
them.
thank you.
Good. Because I remind people, we need to thank them, even if we don't know them. We need to be, you know, express our gratitude for,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. It's
Mhm.
important to treat spirit and ghost as the
Mhm.
people or pets that they were, and
Exactly.
be mindful of them and mannered.
Yeah,
So
and even better sometimes, because sometimes some of the white people who weren't that nice, it's okay to be nice to them in spirit or other form. Um,
yeah,
it's they're here. A lot of it was beyond their control in this life. So,
yep, absolutely.
yeah.
So I'll leave you with this. My dad uh, helped me prove to my mother and my brothers that he was at his own funeral, because my mother had one item from him that she never touched in the 53 years of their marriage, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay,
And you can read about it.
okay, that sounds good. And people can get to can order the book off your website.
No,
And
they can actually only order it on Amazon, Amazon.com. Um, so the new book, Ghosts and Spirits Explained, is just $7.99 in paperback,
wow, that's very
and a lot less
inexpensive.
in ebook.
So they just look
Well, I
you up.
want people to yeah, I want people to read it, because
Right.
I made it as uh, reasonably priced as possible, as lowest
Yeah,
price as I could,
yeah,
because it's important for everybody to know what happens after we pass and how they
I
communicate.
agree with you. I think it's beautiful. That's part of what I value about you is you wanting to make sure people are able to have access to what they really need. And I
Yeah,
think that's I think that's a beautiful thing, and I
thank
do
you.
appreciate it very much. We have another message here from David. That when his mother passed, she would change the channels on the.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
She
but
didn't like
it
what you
is.
were watching.
Mhm. And I never met his mother. I've met his father when I've been over there, but she had already passed. Um, but yeah, great people. Now, so they need to go to Amazon and put your name in to get this.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you spell in, Gutro down there,
Mhm.
um,
Right.
my name is so strange that it's probably the only one that's going to come up. So,
Okay.
and you'll find all
And
all all of my 8 books, like
I
the
was going to
pictures
say
behind me.
you've got at least 7 or 8. I was thinking. So this is fantastic. And what's next? What are you working on next?
Oh gosh, well, I've been barraged with pet readings, and I'm booked all the way out to April. If
Okay.
anybody wants a reading, they can go to robgutro.com, or even petspirits.com will take you to my website, and there's information on how to get a reading. Um, and they're all done by email. And but like I said, booked all the way up to April right now. I'm going to try and work on my next book. Um, there's 7 more books lined up. 2 more
Okay.
puts in the afterlife books. One about cats. Um, and Ghosts of Ireland and Scotland, and Ghosts of a one place in Tombstone, Arizona that I visited that had 7 ghosts in it.
Those all sound fascinating as well. Stay tuned, folks, because Rob will be back, I hope, and we will certainly talk about those other books as well. Um, Feel free, I'll put this on my YouTube channel. It'll be on the Simply Spooky Facebook page, and feel free to share it with your friends um, and watch. And thank you all very much. But Rob, thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure to have a chance to talk to you. I have to have you on the show so I can visit, you know. And
Thank you, William. I appreciate it. And one final note to you and to everybody else is that, especially around the holidays, that's when to look for signs from your pets and your people, because birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays are the prime time to look for messages.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much.